What is good, everybody? Jagan here, back with another One Piece chapter review. We are now on chapter 984 to be exact, so if you've not read it yet, I suggest that you do so now to avoid any spoilers. So, the cover story continues with the reunion of Pound and his daughters Lola and Chiffon, who have a very shocked expression on their face, almost looking like Enru there, which will probably make for an even more emotional cover story next chapter. My guess would be Pound will be holding his grandson Pez or something of that nature, but anyway, we already know how most of the community feels on this cover story, and let's not spend too much time on it. The chapter starts off with the aftermath of Luffy and Yamato versus Ulti in page 1. Page 1 almost dislocated his jaw, and you can see Ulti's scars from Yamato's Thunder Bagua. The interactions continue to be pretty hilarious between page 1 and Ulti, especially the manner in which he talks to page 1. Oh, they hurt me so, Pepe, poor delicate me. You know, it goes back to what she was saying in the other chapters. Oh, I'm ever so tired, carry me. It just, you know, it's funny, but page 1's reaction was even funnier when he called her a freaking psychopath. I feel for the guy. He's always getting smothered by his sister, and he kind of seems to be the punching bag of the Flying Six so far. But overall, I'm glad that they were alright and that they're not down for the count after that clash. It would have been pretty disappointing if two of the Flying Six were taken out of commission this early in the arc when they still have so much potential not only as characters, but as potential matchups for other characters. We see the fodder around them praise the toughness of the dinosaur Zoans, which we've seen constantly throughout the Wano arc, right? Remember, it took 2 hits from Big Mom, a Yonko, to take out Queen in the Udon prison. Granted, you could argue her being nerfed because of the amnesia, and even then Queen was still able to get up a bit after that, but it's still impressive and it attests to the durability of ancient Zoans. Same with page 1, who tanked a flying named attack from Sanji in Act 2, so regardless of what the matchups are going to be, it's going to take some crazy endurance feats to win against the Beast Pirates. So in the next page, we see Luffy start to clash with Yamato, who's keeping up pretty nicely against Gear 3rd Luffy, but Luffy's starting to get impatient, and rightfully so. He doesn't want to just drop everything in the middle of a raid for who he presumes to be Kaido's son. But an interesting observation is how Yamato states that this fight reminds him of someone he had once fought in the past, which I'll touch upon later in this chapter review. Luffy appears to throw a punch that looks exactly like he's using the next level of armament hockey, which he's been training for. So it's nice to see him having a good grasp of it. Him and Zoro are definitely going to take massive jumps in this raid, especially when it comes to armament hockey. There's a reason these two were the only ones given training in armament hockey, which, you know, we'd assume is perfect to help damage the insides of these extremely durable zone users. So we shift back to the stage where Orochi is giving a speech about the Kozukis as the preparations for the execution continue. And we actually see Jinbei and Robin have managed to infiltrate the crowd and even have booze in their hands, man, like fitting in perfectly like they're partying. Jinbei especially is hilarious because he's sticking out like a sore thumb with that massive physique, and that Sun Pirates tattoo is clear as day. But, you know, it's funny that no one would actually recognize a man of such notoriety like that. But anyway, they talk about Momonosuke, and of course they want to save him, but the smarter move is just to be patient and allow the plan to come to fruition, right? Allow the samurai and Law to form the pincer in the back. To which it does cut back to Law and the Scabbards finally making it to the back. And he gets ready to shambles them to the shore, which Oda depicts with a pretty fire-ass spread, I gotta say. I have a feeling Oda will get back in his bag when it comes to the art, because obviously big fights and big moments are coming soon. So we need to get the Marineford vibes. You know, paneling has kind of been a big critique of the Wano arc, specifically how cluttered the panels feel. So if we can really get back to those fire, clean Marineford spreads, I think we'll be able to appreciate the fights and overall this arc a lot more. So we see Law point out how there's 2 entrances, and that he bet his life the upper one leads to Kaido himself, which a lot of people seem to think is kind of a death flag for Law, but I don't want to jump the gun until we see the Viz translations. But regardless, you know, Law has always been a death candidate in this arc. He's someone the readers are very emotionally attached to, someone whose character arc seems to be concluded, although that is debatable. But, you know, he's someone who ranks high in the character popularity polls. His death would definitely make for an emotional one. We haven't had an emotional death from a character the readers are so invested in since Porcus the Ace back in Marineford. So an arc like Wano, whose stakes are supposed to pass even Marineford, would make for a good time to have a death like this. So we finally see Nekomamushi, Marco, and Izo pull up as well, to which we see Neko is strapped up in his arm, man. You know, he's strapped up, ready to go to compensate for the loss of that arm, so it looks like our son is ready for war. Izo and Kiku have a pretty emotional reunion, which I guess confirms that Izo has not come back to Wano at all during those years away, which I guess is understandable with what they were occupied with, but it's still kind of perplexing to me how there's a presumed lack of knowledge the Whitebeard Pirates have on Wano and Odin's situation as a whole, but I guess it's still possible we need to wait for more context on that. Marco talks about a strange shadow in the sea that he's going to go check it out, and the obvious guess would be Perospero, who was last seen on the sea heading to Onigashima by himself. But personally, I wouldn't like that. If Marco encountered him, Perospero likely wouldn't stand a chance, and it would be kind of underwhelming if the Big Mom pirates just keep getting shafted like that before even making it to Onigashima. My personal dream scenario of this would actually be Weevil being that shadow, who I've talked about in some of my previous videos. I'd love for Weevil to show up to Wano and kind of spice things up even more, but it might be a bit of a reach at this point. So we shift back to the keep, and we get a super clean spread of all the beast pirates, and man, you can just tell shit is about to go down very, very soon. All the big names are there, all the forces of the Alliance continue to make their way in, and any second now, some big event is going to trigger all of this, and chaos will officially transpire, fights will officially begin, and it will just be, hopefully madness. I still think Zoro is the likely candidate who would confront the stage first, with Luffy being occupied with Yamato. And of course Kid is looking for Kaido too, so even if his intention isn't to save Momonosuke, he could still be one of the triggers of this war simply because Kaido is in the vicinity and he would attack Kaido. I'm still not sure what Kaido's announcement is going to be, but I hope it's something unexpected. A lot of people have speculated it would be, a marriage between Yamato and one of Big Mom's children, but I'll touch upon that later as well. So Luffy finally caves in, allowing Yamato time to explain the situation. He talks about how he wanted to be like Kozuki Oden, and that Kaido would beat the hell out of him for doing so. And that he was actually there to witness the execution 20 years ago, which clears up a lot, by the way. By this logic, I think we can assume Yamato is around 25 to 28 years old at the bare minimum, if he was able to recall and comprehend the events of the execution. But it kind of makes Ulti's statement from earlier seem kind of weird, when Ulti said he thinks he can hang with the grown-ups, implying that Yamato is younger, but that might just be something that Viz will have to clear up for us. Yamato talks about his frustration on how Orochi and Kaido killed Oden, and how he was eventually able to get his hands on Oden's logbook in Curry, to which he claims has been his Bible ever since. So I guess Yamato has been living his life kind of by Oden's teachings or by Oden's philosophy, and there's a ton of information in this book, I can only assume. I can only imagine the things Yamato was able to learn from it. I don't know if shit about the actual One Piece is in there, but I gotta imagine that there's something very important Luffy will learn, or else what's the point of introducing it? Yamato even claims that Orochi and Kaido have no idea of the book's existence, which is also kind of weird to me, because how could such an important book not be found by Orochi and Kaido's subordinates? But then again, they didn't even confiscate Oden's actual swords, so I don't really know what the deal is on that. Yamato talks about how, with the scabbards gone, someone has to carry out Oden's will and open up the borders of Wano, to which he is revealed to actually be a woman. Yes, Yamato is the daughter of Kaido, the self-proclaimed Kozuki Oden. So the big question has been, is Yamato actually identifying as a man? Or is it more so she just wants to be Kozuki Oden, who just happens to be a man? I don't know. I don't exactly know how to interpret this, so bear with me on the pronouns I use until we get more context about the situation. But the intro box does say daughter, and I'm curious to see Yamato's actual response to the scabbards being alive, because in the latest chapter, she knows of Luffy's name, which we can assume is because of her connection to Ace, which she says Luffy reminds her of. And I'm assuming Yamato and Ace had multiple fights and that Ace was the person she was referring to early in the chapter. So it looks like Ace had some sort of connection with Yamato, whether that was friendship. I mean, some people have speculated to even be romantic, but I highly doubt that, honestly. It really would be interesting if Ace somehow prepared Yamato for Luffy's arrival. I don't know how or what the context of that would be. I'm not really sure of another way in which Yamato could have been expecting Luffy's arrival. But I'm also pretty curious how Yamato is going to react to seeing Oden's sword on Zoro. Would it be a jealous reaction or one of excitement because he's the one who has Oden's sword, so he must be a great samurai, right? But my guess is it's going to be the former, based on how it's gone so far with how people have reacted negatively to Zoro carrying around Shusui in Wano. So my guess is it would be a pretty similar reaction to how, the likes of Kinemon at first and Gyakumaru reacted to the legendary samurai Ryuma's sword being affiliated with Zoro. And I'm assuming Yamato remembers what Emma looked like, so how Oda handles this character going forward is going to be very interesting with the latest reveal. Going back to the concept of a political marriage, I'm wondering if that is still on the table, because a lot of people speculated that Yamato was a man who would get married to one of Big Mom's daughters, so could it possibly be the other way around now? Would Yamato get married to one of Big Mom's sons? But I don't know, it really depends on how Kaido views the situation as a whole. But what we do know is that Yamato is decently strong. We don't know exactly how strong yet, but based on what I've seen so far, I'm going to place her kind of in the Calamity, like in between the Calamity and Flying Six range. It could be a lot stronger for all we know. I mean, it is the offspring of Kaido, so we cannot sleep on that ceiling. But regardless, I think it's safe to assume that Yamato has secured a spot in the battle against Kaido, which of course would be a big help. Maybe Yamato can give us a hint about a potential weakness for Kaido. But overall, what did you guys like about this chapter? Does it change a lot with Yamato actually being a woman instead? And what are some of your predictions for Yamato's role in the story going forward? Not just as a combatant, but overall as a character as well. Per usual, I appreciate all the love and support from you guys. I got another One Piece discussion that I'll be dropping early this week, so make sure y'all tune in for that. Also, the third episode of the Romance Dawn podcast will be on Fiji's channel this week, so you won't want to miss that. Make sure y'all like and subscribe, and most importantly, stay safe on this 4th of July weekend. Peace out, everybody.